Thank you. When I wrote these things, I didn't think that you will read them out loud. Now I see, actually, it's quite embarrassing what I wrote. Sorry. Do you hear me? Yes. People are popping in. It's quite tough to bring your courage together after a colorful talk like the previous one by Andrew, and he's not in. So I hope, yeah, here it is. Andrew, I was saying that it's very discouraging for me, actually. It's very frightening to have a talk after you. So I need you to give me a compliment. Give you a compliment? Please, can you?
And what's your name again?
Sanli.
Sanli. Sanli, one of the loveliest shirts I've ever seen. Yeah. And also check out this smile. This is an award-winning smile right here.
Yeah,
so
fantastic.
Let's give it up.
Thank you very much. You see, well, I don't have as many photos as Andrew, as you know, but I have a compliment and a cool shirt, witnessed by Andrew. And the talk is also a bit of a mix. Against of my good judgment, I've combined two talks about actually making a battery, and actually how do we do things at the university. How many people actually work or affiliated at the university here? Wow, 30%, 40%, pretty good. So that's why maybe that those few slides are also relevant here. Well, I mean, I don't have to tell you, but we do have a very big problem, is that we have a lot of carbons which we are, the pointer doesn't work, right? No. Well, we have a lot of, you see the graph, I try to give the colors. Yes, yes, thank you. So we have a lot of carbons which we are burning, and all of them had actually to stay in the ground. As you see, it's growing pretty fast, and all these things in the course of the next 30 years should basically go to zero. It starts from 1800, and you see actually each time we have a new source of energy, we didn't stop using the previous one. We just added on top. So we're still using as much wood and biomass as it was in the 1800, actually twice more. So this is a big problem. It's global, and we have to fix it. And one of the bottlenecks is actually to store energy. And I think you can count, probably you have between 2 to 10 batteries in your possession right now. We do need to store this energy, just because the only good reason that we keep using the oils and the petroleum industry thing is that these are very energy dense materials. It's one of the most dense energy materials. You can actually release the energy in a pretty simple burning process. So we have to replace that. In 30 years, we need to have as many batteries in the world as we now have diesel tanks. And that's a pretty tough project to pull together. For information, Tesla made 1 million Teslas in 15 years. So, and now multiply that by 1,000, maybe more. The battery technology is pretty old. This is a picture from 1836. I think the battery still works if you do it, if you use it. But this is something that has not gone through the process of perfection like we did for combustion engines or all the things that we use in burning fossil fuels. So we have this little challenge now. Can we have an actually open source battery in this community? You know why it should be open source. That actually works for less than $100 per kilowatt. And I think this is a price range that probably allows for people who have, have already a tank to give it up and then go for it. I think this is also standard with different definitions that of the, I think, Infrastructure Act of Biden, if I'm saying it correct. This is also a number that is mentioned there. It's also important that you have to do it all over the world at the same time. So you should use locally available material. It should be maintained. It's not enough that it works once, but it should work for the next 30 years. And it must be recycled, because you do not want to create a new problem, which means that you have to take care of also the whole supply chain at the same time. So it's from where the material comes all the way to the material, to how it is made, how it is maintained, where it is maintained, and how it is recycled back. You have to teach these new technologies all at the same time to the people who have to maintain it. You need about, 100 million battery maintainers, because we now have maybe 100 million people working at gas stations, something like that, I estimate. So we looked at the technologies which are available. There is a lot of research going on batteries at the universities and also in the companies. This is a graph of a few years ago of all the techniques which is there. Lead acid is something which we all know. We probably have seen it in the old cars. It used to be there, non-electric ones. And lithium batteries, lithium ion batteries is the one that everybody's talking about in the West because they want it in their cars, and it's clean and it is sort of easy, but also they talk about it because it's strategically very non-scalable, because all the lithium, 90% of it comes from one country, which is not friendly with everyone. And so we have the redox flow batteries somewhere in the center here, and that's the technology we taught because it's very versatile. You can already have like 100 types of materials around the same technology. And I'm going to explain what this redox flow battery is. It's similar to the other electrochemical batteries in the sense that you have two materials with different chemical properties. You have to somehow bring them in touch with each other around a very thin membrane that does not allow the electrons to pass, but allow the ions to pass. So this is a lot of sort of conditions to put on this membrane, but the rest of it is just chemistry, just mix salts into water and acids and things like that, and then you store them in the tanks. And in the redox flow battery, this is done different from the lithium, because in lithium batteries, one side of it is lithium, and the other side of it is another material which is bound to lithium, but they have different electrochemical properties. So you get these 3 volts per cell that you have. In electrochemical cells like redox flow batteries, these are 2 different solutions. One side have, I don't know, vanadium 3, one side had vanadium 5, or you have, I don't know, zinc on one side, chloride on the other side, iron on one side, air the other side. So these are different combinations of materials you can have. Still, always it stays, you have to bring them in close touch to each other via this membrane. And that makes it difficult to make. The membrane is also the reason that lithium batteries actually burn quite easily, because if you poke a hole in them, then you bring these materials in touch with each other and a lot of energy is released at once. So in comparison with lithium, which everybody works on, and the things like in the West thinks that this is the technology to go for, the redox flow batteries are relatively affordable. They are safe. At the moment, they are not as affordable at the industrial level as the lithium batteries because, well, we do not have the industry for redox flow battery as much as we have for lithium. But compared with lead acid batteries, which we do have the industry, they are much more safe and sustainable, and they also can actually store more and then be recycled many more times. So it don't win. And more important than that is that you can discharge them deeply. So a lead acid works perfect up to the 80% discharge, and afterwards becomes useless. That's why your car after 5 minutes is dead, the battery. But the real redox flow battery, you can discharge all the way to 10% down, so it doesn't become unstable chemically. There are different scales of making these batteries. Some people are making gigawatt batteries, and these are really gigantic, and they are meant to keep the electricity which is generated in the summer for the winter, or something like over the day, peak shaving, things like that. But there are also some companies who make small scale ones. This is the same amount of storage that, maybe a small car is done. It's much heavier, so you cannot use it easily for the car, but it works. You can just plug it to your wall, and then your house becomes off-grid if you want. The problem is that all the companies are at the level of startups. This is Red Flow. It was fantastic battery. The company went bankrupt. And this is similar to all these sort of immature technologies that we have. Vertical farming is another one, a lot of things. There's a lot of small companies. Each of them is good in one of the techniques, but none of them is good in making batteries. And they put a lot of energy and effort in making the whole system, and they failed because they cannot sell, they cannot support, and it's not really comparable or compatible with the market demands. So that was the reason. And we started this challenge like 3 years ago. Is it possible? And at some point, actually, Kirk Smith contacted me totally out of the blue. I'm very happy that that email didn't go to spam, because he said, well, I finished my PhD and I have the design of such a thing. Do you want to collaborate? I said, yes. Actually, another person also online read about Kirk's intentions. That's Daniel. He's a chemist. They didn't know each other either, but somehow at the same time, we read the same blogs. So write about your early discoveries as often as you can. You never know who will contact you out of the blue. But these guys actually, in a matter of a year, we helped them a bit, mostly in their Daniel's kitchen, but also in our lab, we made a kit, which is just a demonstration of how this battery works, because this you need to test the materials. And you need to teach people how this electrochemical battery works. And that kit is inside this box here inside here. So this is the flow kit. The nice thing is that this you can buy. It's about $8,000, and what they made material used for this one is about, I don't know, 130 or something. So, and it was safe. We could demonstrate that it works. This was the first generation, so we invited them to a conference to let other students work with it. Yes, thank you. And it was working. They be people in that lab, real scientists. Well, everybody is a real scientist. But scientists who were working with batteries actually build them. And there was this guy from Jülich who said, I'm working with batteries 30 years, but this is the first time I touch one, because he was always putting material of the battery into one of these big instruments. So it has been a big process. This is the history of batteries. It is pretty easy to put together. It's basically an electrochemical cell. The materials here are made such that Daniel can use them in their kitchen. So, for example, the membrane here is a photo paper, and all the rest of the materials are like copper, graphite, things like that, are things you can buy on Alibaba or a lot of websites. And the only important thing is to design it so that it can be recycled for a week or a month. That's why you need a battery to be able to store energy for a long time. And that's all that goes into the design. The rest is pumps and electronics. If he could actually use in sort of assemble his stuff in a lab, he had access to much larger directory of materials, like, for example, acidic conditions, things like that. But because he had only the kitchen, he had to also choose materials which is safe for working at home, and people sell it to you without working at university, without having a license. So with that, actually, he became creative. So he has a recipe which is competitive with scientific recipes, but it's much cheaper. So it's very nice. And that's the zinc and iodide chemistry is using. We invited them, and they demonstrated this was working. And afterwards, they also improved from the lessons that we had from the workshop. This is the newest generation of the cell. It is much more robust, and it has been recycled for 2 weeks, and it still continues. So you can see the recycling results here. For the people who use batteries, this is, you charge it, discharge it, charge it, discharge it. You see if the battery is degrading. And when you start things like that, it probably means something is degrading. Anyway, but this is a good working battery, and it does not even turn on its own pump because it's just a cell, but it is showing that this material is stable enough for going to the next level of making it. So the timekeeper left, but I have 7 minutes. Yeah, I have time. Okay. So this is maybe a moment of pause, because I work at the university, and I really love here that people like Andrew actually take an idea and then push it all the way to the end and make it and sell it. And it's fantastic. Please do your work 100 times more. But I thought to myself 3 years ago that, well, we still have to do it on the scale of, I don't know, 3 billion batteries or something like that. And we have 30 years for it. So it's not this very long arc of history which has to bend, but we have a very limited amount of time to bend this arc. So you cannot just sort of come out of university and say, well, I got to do it the right way from the beginning. We need to use this infrastructure of the university, which is worldwide, very, very thick infrastructure. We are actually using it right now in this hall to make this possible. And so I started looking into why these universities working 200 years on the batteries, with a lot of people with absolutely good intentions to really bring these technologies to the people, are not doing it the right, or haven't succeeded yet. And I think this is the reason. That's why I want to spend 2 slides on it. And this is called the technology transfer lifecycle. This is how most universities in the West try to bring the technologies, inventions in the university into the market. And this is sort of a model from the United States, but in my university, they also use the same. And this is how it is. If somebody is doing research for fun or for impressing the colleagues or just curiosity, and finds something new and says, well, everybody has to have this invention, because then other scientists can also use my work. So how can I bring it to the other people? And there is this office, it's called Knowledge Transfer Office or Technology Transfer Office. Says, well, we can do it for you, but we are mostly legal people. We do it in the legal language. You have to write these invention disclosures so we can protect your invention. Why do you need to protect it? Because if I don't protect it, nobody will later pay us to survive, to create new companies. So that's how this cycle starts. So from invention, they evaluate, they protect the IP. Patent is not products. It's actually very costly to keep a patent, but then they market it. Somebody with a lot of money says, well, this is a nice, cool invention. I give you this much money, but you have to give me exclusivity because I would like to be the one who uses it first and brings the market, so I can actually earn a lot of money because I'm risking it or something like that. And then it goes around. The way these managers write it is always misleading. I'm a physicist, so I think we should actually plot it like that, because the cycle, as using those numbers, there are these numbers you see here. If you use that, the cycle is actually very leaky. So a lot of inventions, only a fraction of them become protected, a fraction of them go to marketing, licensed out products. It's about 3 to 5%. Even MIT doesn't claim to have higher success rate, which means that a lot of work in between, all this work which people do in their sort of very intense moment of starting up their businesses, is lost somewhere. And probably a lot of mistakes are the reason of it, but these mistakes are repeated all the time. And this is what I want to show really, because that's why I see the universities are really focusing now on this 1% quarter. This is this 1% of invention that are very niche, but if you make it exclusive, after 10 years, you can have actually a lot of revenue. That would be the next, I don't know, CRISPR-Cas or the virus or the gene editing, stuff like that. So you really focus on that, which means that you actually miss 99% of the inventions at the university. While it would be very nice if everybody at the university also learns that there is a lot of value in the rest of inventions, including the mistakes they've made, and then give it to the commons. And I think this audience knows a lot about the commons. There are these things that you don't know what is the use, but we know that it's very broad, and you can actually give it to the shared ownership. So use Creative Commons. Because there's a quadrant, there are two other quadrants. There is this Conqueror's Quarter, which people go for exclusivity and broad use at the same time. These people don't like university. They come out of university after 1 year because they would like to conquer the world. And there's these anarchists, maybe people in this audience find it nice because they say, well, out of principle, even the niche products have to have shared ownership. It is fine, but it really demands a lot of individuals doing their own work without collaboration. That's the result of it. So I hope that more people move to the Commons Quarter. And here is one idea. One idea that the universities can do is that, well, just don't touch anything, but all these people who stop through the cycle, just give a Creative Commons license. I call this an open source handshake. So maybe we will have more open source license failed startups, but at least for the broad use, they would be useful. There are also other ideas for how to make this ecosystem work. OpenNext is one of the projects in EU that's been done. This is collaboration between the Fab Labs and the universities, so that you have shared ownership, and only when it becomes product you start actually making it exclusive or protected. Back to the battery. So the battery, what I showed you was to show and to teach the students how a battery works. It doesn't charge even a mobile phone. If you want to do that, you have to stack these batteries, because 1 volt is not enough. Even if you convert it, you have to run, I don't know, 200 amperes through it. It's a lot. But you stack it, which means that you put a lot of cells together. So the next part of our project is to make a stack of 3 or 5. Before that, we have to expand the area. So we had like 10 centimeters squared area, but it has to become like an A4. And if you do that, you actually reach almost the commercial level accessible, commercially bought flow batteries. So these are the Chinese ones, but the other companies do nowadays, all of them sell these stacks, which are just A4 size. So that gigawatt factor is also built of these stacks. So pretty close to reaching a viable battery, if you can stack it and if you can expand the size to something like this, A4 size. That's the roadmap of the Flow Battery Research Collective. Would be large format cell, that would be this year, and then hopefully by end of the year, or maybe end of next year, if we are not so ambitious as we are now, we can have a stack, maybe 3 stacks, which actually does something useful. At the moment will be about 100 watts. So it can charge a mobile phone, but still cannot run a house. But that's the beginning of it. Running out of time. So I would like to acknowledge the people who helped me in this sort of quest for developing the university, at the same time developing a battery. So in our team of senior scientists, we do have engineers. Antoni, Peter, and Yali, they are engineers, but we also have social scientists like Martin Force, Stephanie, who actually is a anthropologist, and she studies how the Japanese islands accepted landlines, because it's very important to understand how people actually will use your product before you actually produce something which maybe, I don't know, a fraction of people would like to use, but the rest of them not. Daniel and Kerk I already mentioned, and also a lot of students work on this project. I use this because I have to teach. I use this project also in my classroom. This is the Flower Power team class of 2023, which actually each of them built a certain part of the battery. We are physics students, so it was not very successful for them. We are doing MRI now, so it's very successful. Everybody likes it. And with that, I actually stop.